Welcome to AFrame Lesson 4.1. In this video, we're going to explore how we can use 3D models created in other programs as part of our virtual world. We're going to explore two resources where we can find these 3D models. So let's get to it. So one of my favorite places to go look for 3D models is sketchfab.com. If you go to the top, you'll see a little search bar. So you can search for pretty much anything. I'm not going to say they're going to have it, but you can search for it. So I'm going to look for something called low poly robot. And you might be asking, what is low poly? When 3D models are created, they're created using polygons. So by saying low poly, what you're asking for is a 3D model that has a low polygon count. What that does is that it gives you files that are small in size, which will load up quicker in your virtual world. You'll also see there's some options you can select here. So I'm going to select downloadable. And something I noticed about the website, sometimes it will give you all the stuff that's downloadable, and sometimes it'll give you that and more. So let's kind of scroll down and look at some of the icons. So you can see here, this has a little download button, so you'll be able to download this one. And you'll also notice that within this little first gallery, you can actually interact with the 3D models to kind of check them out before you look further into them. Now this one has a little film strip. What that means that this one is animated. And this one has a little dollar sign, which means you're gonna have to pay for it. So let's try to stick to stuff that we won't have to pay for. So let's go ahead and select this one, the floating robot. So when you click on the picture, it brings up a more in-depth preview of the model, which actually will show you the animation if it has animation. If you scroll down a little bit, you should see a download 3D model. So let's go ahead and click on that. And you're going to want to download this one, the one that says gltf. So let's go ahead and click on that. And if you notice, the file size was relatively small, only about 2 megabytes. So I already have this up on my desktop right here. So what I end up doing is it downloads as a zip file. So you're going to want to extract it. And when you extract it, it's going to give you some resources. It's going to give you the actual 3D object, another file called bin, and possibly a folder with texture for the 3D model. So now let's go over to our Replit, and let's load up that 3D model. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a folder, since it did involve 3 different files. So I'm going to call it robot. I'm going to go here. I'm going to drag those 3 things in. And one thing that you'll notice if you download a couple of 3D models from Sketchfab, they all come up with the same name of scene.gltf, scene bin, which is the reason for the folder. So that way you could differentiate between the different scene gltfs. All right, so using our asset manager, which you may have used in previous videos to load up things such as video, we're going to load up the asset. And the way we're going to do is we're going to use asset items, item. But the rest pretty much is the same. So let's give it an ID. Let's call it robot. We got to specify the source. And in this case, it's inside the robot folder. And we only need to load up the gltf file. The gltf file behind the scenes then uses the other 2 resources in that folder. Let's go ahead and close that out. And then as part of our world now, AFrame offers a gltf model component to actually load the 3D model into the world. And since we gave it an ID, we're going to use robot, hashtag robot. Let's go ahead and close that out. And that should pretty much be it. Again, we didn't give it a default position, so it's going to pop up our position, which means we're going to have to move back in the world. So let's go ahead and pop this over to a new tab. And let's back it up. And the first thing that's going to pop at you is that the model is huge, which means we're going to have to scale it down. So let's do I don't know, bring it down to 0.1. Hopefully that's small enough. Let's check it out. Nope. Okay, so what you're seeing here is we're probably inside the model at this point. So we're gonna have to back it up a little bit. And there you go. Oh wow, I didn't realize that this is what it looked like from the side. Oh, you know what? I just realized something. I only scaled on 2 of the axes. I need to add the Z as well. It's like, why does it look so stretched out? Yeah, so we're probably still in the model, but now we can back it up. You can see here, you notice with the 0.1, it's still relatively large. So that's obviously something you can play with. One thing you may notice from a difference from the Sketchfab preview and ours is that it's not animated. So in order to animate your 3D models, I'm going to bring in another library here. And you could easily Google this one by simply Googling AFrame extras, and you'll find this link. What this library offers, amongst many other things, is this extra attribute that you can add called animation mixer. Again, it does some work in the library to actually get the animated model to animate. So let's try that. And honestly, even before we back out, you can see that it's animated because it's moving. And there you go. All right, so as you can see, it's not too hard to work with 3D models. Again, it definitely requires a couple of extra steps than some of your normal components or just working with images. Now, in this video, we're simply just introducing the concept of 3D models, but you can easily now take this and incorporate it as part of a class. You can add event listeners to this. You can add animation to move it. So right now it's moving up and down, the arms are moving, but let's say you actually want to move it around the world. Again, you could do that through JavaScript. So don't be scared to play with this like you would a sphere. Again, this component is exactly that. It's a component. You can work with it any which way you want. Now, before we conclude the video, I do want to introduce another resource that you can use, and that's called Tinkercad. Now, I was originally introduced to Tinkercad. Again, this is just a side plug for my interest with Arduinos. It's a great website that lets you prototype Arduinos as well as write code and run the simulation on this platform. But most recently, I was introduced to the fact that you can actually do 3D models here. So let's go ahead and create one. And you can see here in the world, you could do things that are very similar to the AFrame website or AFrame platform, where you can add a cylinder, you can add a sphere, move the sphere up a little bit. I will tell you though, it does take some getting used to working in this platform. So there you go. So this could be the start of like a little avatar person for your world. But the other thing I like about this, I'm going to delete these two, is that it also offers you a lot of pre-made 3D models. Let's go to, can't remember exactly where I saw it. Was it here? Yeah, there we go. So let's say we want this jack-o'-lantern. So we can, click it on our screen, and there you go. So you have a 3D model of a jack-o'-lantern. So similar to Sketchfab, we'll have to use export. And you're going to want to export the gltf model. So I'm going to click there. Hopefully it doesn't take too long. And let's go ahead and pull that up. Let's go ahead and drag that here. Now, this particular 3D model, notice it downloads as one whole file. You'll also notice the extension is a little bit different. But don't let that throw you. There's not going to be anything different you're going to have to do in your particular virtual world to get this to work. So let's do pumpkin. And I'm just going to do a rename here. Probably be easier to grab the name that way. Bring it over here. And let's make sure we change this to a B. I think we got everything. So let's go ahead and grab this, save ourselves a little bit of typing. Change this to pumpkin. I'm not going to mess with the scale just yet. Let's see what it looks like by default. Let's go ahead and put a position though, just to start off somewhere else. So it's not right on top. So let's throw it way off to the left. And I guess we could do 0. And let's do a -10. So it gets thrown back a little bit. And let's see what that looks like. Okay. Wow. So the pumpkin was even larger than, actually no, I don't want to say larger, but it is large than the 3D model. So we're gonna have to use the same thing. We have to scale it down a little bit. So let's scale it down. Actually no, let's do the same scale. Down to 0.1. See what that looks like. All right, very cool. So you can see here we have our 3D model from Sketchfab, not from Sketchfab, from Tinkercad, and then we also have our robot from Sketchfab. So let's go back to our presentation and let's review what we've done. So in this video, we explored how we can search for 3D models using two particular resources, sketchfab.com and Tinkercad, and how we can easily add them to our virtual worlds using the gltf model component and the asset manager. So hopefully you're excited about being able to add 3D models to your world, and enjoy.